Hi, Starsi. We're back again on the farm. And I've got another story for you that we're going to read. And do you remember Uncle Byron? This is your daddy's little brother. And he is going to hold the book for us this time. Did you want to say hi to Starsi?
Hello, Starsi.
So this book is called Roos in Shoes. Can you see the picture? The kangaroo in the shoes. Do you think kangaroos wear shoes, Starsi? I don't think they do. We have kangaroos here on the farm. Okay. Let's go to the beginning. This book's by Tom Kennelly. Now, Byron, do you want to sit down and I'll just turn this page like this so I can read it? And we might need to bring the pictures. Can you see all those kangaroos? So we might need to bring it a little bit closer there, Byron. Whoops. There is a farm near Kajudong, to which the Kanga tribes belong. You'll find there every kind of roo, the grey, the red, with females. Blue, they crowd in there, close to the ranges, because it keeps them safe from strangers. The floodplains farmed by Roger Drew, the slopes and grasslands suit the roo. Sorry, the camera is shaking. They like to wave at one another, the Drews and the kangaroos. So on our farm, we don't have red kangaroos. We have grey eastern kangaroos. So they're a lot smaller. The big red ones live in the desert and they're huge. But we do have some big 6-foot kangaroos here. They're big boys, aren't they, Byron?
Yeah.
And they're a bit scary and they've got big muscles on their arms. You've got to look after your dog to make sure your dog doesn't go near the kangaroo because they've got sharp claws. The family Drew grow wheat and clover in paddocks. Summer floods wash over. They make an honest living thus and send their daughter on the bus to school in Caldas. Can you see that picture, Starsi? There's a tractor ploughing the fields and it looks like someone's going off in the bus. Oh, there's a farmer. Is he thinking about his cows? Do you remember meeting our cow Lily? She gives us milk every day. Some said, gentle farmer Drew, you ought to put more cattle through. You ought to have them running high along the hills towards the sky. But this was Farmer Drew's reply. There was a time before Drew's came when all the country was the same, the floodplains and the hills alike, the rivers full of native pike, all that belonged to kangaroos before the coming of the Drews. I don't intend to drive the roos out of the land they love to use. The land from which they were waved to Drews, and Drews waved too. We love the kangaroos too. We also have wallabies. Wallabies are a small type of kangaroo. And their babies, you know where their babies live? In their pouch, in the front. And they bounce along with the little babies in their pouch. Now, there's someone that looks like he might be coming to cause some trouble. Then one day came another threat that cursed the Drews and Roos to fret, for lower land was so admired, electric companies now vied to buy Drew land, to build high towers, to link the cities with their power. It must be done, the Drews were told, before you're even halfway old. You'll be paid off gone in an hour, and we need your land to carry power. And we can make you take our price. You'll find non-farming quite nice. Do you think he's telling the truth? Do you think he's telling the truth, Byron?
I better think so.
Oh, what a sadness fell that night, as Farmer Drew reviewed the plight. The Roos and he no longer neighbours or doing one another favours, or sharing land they both loved well, where splendid evening shadows fell and made all creatures feel so well, the Roos, likewise the Drews. So they were thinking about it while they were having a rest in bed. Turn the page. And in the darkness on the ridge above the river Carotidge, the kangaroos remained upright, discussing how to stand and fight to save their friends upon the farm, who stood between themselves and harm, who kept away the men with guns that shot at Roos on other runs. The Joeys even stayed up too, watching as discussion flew between the older kangaroos, the senior males and females, who were leaders of the tribes of Roo. He'll hate in the city too, said one extremely wise old Roo. He's likely to get very blue. This is great country we all share. The trees are tall, the weather's fair. The ancestors we never knew and ancestors of Rogers Drew, they live here too. To send him to another part, it will. I tell you, it will break his heart. If we're to save this place, our dream, we'll have to find a clever scheme. There's all the kangaroos talking about what they're going to do. I can't see the words. Late that night in Kudgeridong, strange shadows flitted right along the tree-lined pavements wide and long, and all the kangaroos were down. Outside the shoe store of Maison, they strapped and stomped and hummed a little song, a song to keep the town asleep, to keep the townsfolk snoring deep. Now kangaroos can open doors by concentrating on their paws. They do so only for good cause. They concentrate in threes and fours, and there go by the doors, as did the door of May Strong's store. It's hard to see the writing because it's getting dark. It's hard to see the writing. It's good to keep the page so I can actually see the writing. I need to go to see the writing. The oldest kangaroo wrote a note. Dear Mrs. Strong, we took a vote. We'd like to buy your total stock except the frilly little frock. We need your shoes for honest use and we're all set to pay our dues. So here's my golden credit card. Please use it with our best regard. And just to show we mean no harm, accept this jar of kanga balm. To help your skin, you'll be like him. Here we go. It looks like they're trying on some shoes. Oopsie. Now, when the Drews looked out at dawn across the frosty morning lawn, they saw a thing you never would. Across the ridge, the Roos all stood, tiptoe shoes on lower paws, against the normal kanga laws that said a Roo should never use a shoe. Have you ever seen a kangaroo with a shoe? Have you? When men turned up to build the towers, the Roos had stood there for some hours. Joeys, which are baby kangaroos, in sneakers, Roos in pumps, or cocktail shoes with glistening rumps, or boots designed for riding horses or hiking to the snowy sources. Look, they've got all sorts of shoes on their feet. That looks a bit silly, doesn't it? And Roger Drew, he said, my friends, you'll hurt yourself for no good end. I have to go, I can't remain, so please don't cause yourself such pain. The oldest Roo replied outright, we are your brothers in this fight. We mean to show that Roos and shoes are no more likely to bemuse or seem ridiculous to man than building towers on your land. There's no excuse for Roos and shoes, and none for tower building crews on land belonging to the Drews. And we will wear our sneakers, pumps, our cocktail shoes and glistening rumps, our boots designed for riding horses or linking to the snowy sources until the tower builders wilt and leave the towers all unbuilt, till we are left just as we choose above, the Roos below the Drews. This one's got some slippers on. Do you wear slippers, Starsi, when it's cold in winter? Let's see. The tower builders did their best, but could not work with any zest. When watched by lines of Roos and shoes, and in time by TV crews, who filmed the lines of shoe-girt kangas standing politely with their banners. They should be kept to live with Roos. They should be let live where they choose. and people came to cheer the Roos at first in merely ones and twos, and then in crowds who lined the fence, and thought it made plainest sense for Kanga folk to guard their land and make the most amusing stand. They're protesting, aren't they? Because they don't want the big power poles and towers on their land, on all their beautiful farmland. One day, Prime Minister Anne Adair arrived along with their daughter Claire. They saw the Roos in solemn lines, wearing their finest number 9s. Claire turned to her quite famous mum and said, "Now listen, Mum, I'd rather see these towers all torn down and put much further out of town, somewhere that won't upset these creatures, somewhere that doesn't have such features as Roos and shoes." What could she say, PM Adair? A woman wanting to be fair, who said she had special care for native beasts and bushland rare, and while the cities were electric and needed power fast and hectic, she thought that here on the Drew's farm the towers did not as good, but harm. She called the ministers to meet, and by the fence along the street they voted in a solid block in favour of the Kanga block. Now at this the news the Drews shed tears and served the tower builders fears. As for the painfully shod Roos, they seemed to need no further clues. They all launched into Kanga song about the land where they belong, removed their shoes and sang along. So did Maystrong. There's the shoes having a party and taking off their shoes. Look, it looks like they're reading the paper and having some drinks on the beach. The story might have ended then, and I could put away my pen, except for Edward de Groos, who read within the evening news the poignant tale of Roos and shoes. De Groos, a well-known stage director, tracked the Roos to their own sector and said, "What gifts you Roos possess, such huge potential to impress. I can see your names in lights, Roos in shoes. Full every night, and you'd be famous, make your millions, living your lives in grand pavilions." The Roos said, "Thank you, Edward, but we would find it very hard, for we're not freaks, we're simply Roos. The only reason we wore shoes was for the love of our dear Drews. Theatres aren't the place for us, we don't like all that noise and fuss. We're happy right here, where we are, the farm below, the ridge is flat." What's happening here? And so the Roos proved yet again the finest thing for beast and man is to be faithful to your friends. They put on shoes not for the fame and not to play some silly game, but simply to save Farmer Drew, those Roos who once wore shoes. That was an interesting story, wasn't it?
Yes,
Did you like that, Byron?
Yeah.
Did you like that, Starsi? All right, well, we miss you, Starsi. We look forward to seeing you again.
Nice.
Bye.